Hi, and today I'm going to have a little treat for you guys. I'm going to read one of the best children's books of all time, in my humble opinion. It's called Joshua and the Big Bad Blue Crabs by Mark Childress, illustrated by Mary Barrett Brown, copyright 1996 by Little Brown and Company. And here we go. It's a wonderful Southern book on the buy, and I just love it. It was a summer day, steamy and lazy and hot. Joshua paddled his boat up the Magnolia River. He was going to Granny's to deliver a huckleberry pie Mama had made. The pie smelled wonderful. Mama made the very best huckleberry pies in the world. The magnolia trees wore their dressiest white blossoms. This was a magical river, full of fish and friendly alligators and things that went splash. Every summer morning Joshua pulled 2 or 3 fat blue crabs from the trap of the dock. Every afternoon birds played tag in the air. Joshua paddled around the bend where a giant live oak tree touched its elbows to the water. He could taste that huckleberry pie already. He hoped Granny had ice cream to go with it. Joshua jumped out to tie up his boat, but the rope slithered through his hands. "Hey, wait!" he cried. But the boat didn't hear him. It floated under its own power all the way to the middle of the river, pie and all. Joshua shucked off his shirt. He pinched his nose and leapt into the chilly green water. He was a strong swimmer, but the boat stayed just out of his reach. He stopped to catch his breath. The boat stopped. When he started swimming again, the boat started moving again. Then he saw what was making it move. The water was alive with crabs, a whole army of mean-looking crabs. They were big, they were blue, they were bad. They Their wicked pinchers were locked on the hull. They were kidnapping Joshua's boat. The boat bumped the shore. The big bad blue crabs swarmed all over it, snapping their pinchers. They looked hungry, not friendly. A squadron of crabs hustled in and lifted the huckleberry pie onto their shoulders. Other crabs locked pinchers together to form a bridge. The pie scuttled across the bridge to the shore. The boat began to drift away. Joshua dashed after his boat. The pie marched away up the river bank at the head of a parade of overjoyed crabs. They strutted and celebrated and clicked their pinches. By the time Joshua got to the shore, the crabs were gone. The pie plate sat on a tree stump, shiny and clean as the day Mama brought it home from the store. Joshua was too ashamed to go to Granny's. He floated home on the current. He was mad at those crabs. What had he ever done to them? They had no right to kidnap that pie, even if it was the very best huckleberry pie in the world. At first, Mama didn't believe him. "I've never known crabs to have a taste for huckleberries," she said. "Sure you didn't get hungry and eat it yourself?" Joshua swore he hadn't. "Well, I'll make another pie for Granny," Mama said. "If you clean out the boathouse, paint the shed, mend the cast nets, sweep the porch, pull the weeds, and bring in some firewood." That seemed like an awful lot of work to Joshua, but it had been a very fine pie after all. Mama rolled out another pie crust while Joshua cleaned and scrubbed and painted and mended and sweated. He stayed mad at those crabs. They had him outnumbered, a whole big bad crab army against one boy. He plotted revenge. The next morning Joshua built a wooden pie box with a latch and a padlock. He put the box in his boat. In his knapsack he carried a new straw hat for Granny and a special surprise for the crabs. He set out upriver. A flock of geese flew by in a perfect V. At the live oak tree the water began to stir. Joshua peered over the side. A flotilla of crabs nipped the air with their pinches. Their eyes bugged out on stalks from their heads. They seemed to gaze hungrily toward the wooden box. Joshua hopped out onto Granny's dock. The crabs swarmed into the boat, surrounding the pie box. One crab picked the lock with the tip of his claw. More crabs lifted the lid, licking their chops. Surprise! The box was empty, except for a note from Joshua. "Sorry, boys, maybe next time." Joshua patted the knapsack on his shoulder and laughed. They had him outnumbered, but he had them outsmarted. At least that's what he thought. The pie was in his knapsack all right, but in the excitement it had flipped over, smearing huckleberries all over Granny's new straw hat. She took a taste on her finger. "Mighty good pie," she said. "I wouldn't mess around with crabs if I were you." The next day it was Joshua's birthday. He had so much fun at his party, he forgot all about his war with the crabs. All the kids from the river came to the log cabin to play, pin the tail on the donkey, and bob for apples. Joshua got a wonderful present from Mama and Daddy, an actual store-bought rod and reel. That evening, Granny rode over for a special birthday supper. Mama made a big pot of crab gumbo, Joshua's favorite. Tonight, though, he felt a little funny about eating it. He just tasted the broth and then sat back to wait for dessert. "Joshua, I baked you a birthday cake," Granny said, "but it disappeared from my windowsill this morning. It was chocolate with coconut frosting." Mama looked at Joshua curiously. "You know, a lot of sweet things have been turning up missing," she said. "I think somebody around here has a sweet tooth." Joshua went out to dump the empty crab shells in the river. Now he was really mad. He'd gotten the blame for 2 pies and a birthday cake, which he never even got to taste. Bending over the water, he noticed 3 big blue crabs watching him. Tears ran down their eye stalks. The sight of those crab shells splashing into the river was making them cry. One of them waved a tiny white flag. Poor crabs! Suddenly Joshua felt sorry for fighting with them and for liking crab gumbo so much. No wonder crabs turned out so mad and so bad with the crab trap and the boiling pot waiting for them. So they wanted a little dessert. Was that too much to ask if you were the main course? "Boys, I'll make you a deal," Joshua said. "I'll stop eating crab gumbo if you promise you won't steal any more pies or cakes. Okay?" The crabs clicked their pinches in agreement. Joshua went to bed happy that night. The war seemed to be over. He dreamed peaceful, summertime dreams of the river. The next day, Joshua paddled out to practice casting his new fishing rod. It took a few tries to learn the right way to hold his thumb, but before long his hook was sailing halfway across the river and landed plop, just where he wanted it. Suddenly the boat began to move. Joshua knelt in the bow. "Surrounded! The crab army, 200 strong. Hey, I'm all out of pies," he pleaded. "Can't you please leave me alone?" But the crabs pushed the boat all the way to the riverbank. They didn't look mad today, or especially bad. They marched out of the river and up the bank in a cheerful procession, 3 by 3. Joshua followed them. Stepping over a fallen log, he came into a clearing. 1,000 crabs were having a party. A crab combo clicked out a hot calypso rhythm. Crab dancers twirled and shimmied on the dance floor. A few wallflower crabs hanging around at the back, acting shy. A lovely crab couple whirled past. The band played the gumbo limbo. A circle of crabs scuttled in a circle of crabs scuttled in bearing a beautiful cake with white frosting and a special message spelled out in the huckleberries. A big daddy crab sliced the cake with a sharp pincher. Joshua got the first piece. Chocolate with coconut frosting. Very tasty. Maybe the best birthday cake in the world. The crabs had been mad once. They had been bad once, but they sure knew how to throw a party. Joshua made a whole army of new friends. Joshua didn't see much of the crabs after that. He learned to like other kinds of gumbo. If he had any pies to deliver, he carried them across the bridge to Granny's the long way around. And if on a summer morning he found a stray crab in his trap, Joshua always let it get away.